Hi, welcome to Codex. I'm Mike Coletta.
And I am Tyler Osby.
And today we are talking about the games for the Nintendo DS. And I'm going to start with probably the reason I bought the DS, and that is Super Mario 64 DS.
Oh man, this game was also a large reason why my little brother bought a DS. I waited on my DS, but he bought it right away because he really wanted to play Super Mario 64.
I thought it was so cool they remade it because I was a huge fan of the 64 version of this game. And so I got it, and it was so much fun. And it was just like, it's just nostalgia. You know, they didn't really change a lot. The only real difference is that bottom touchscreen. Actually, there's two big differences, Doi. The first is the bottom touchscreen. You use it for a map, or you could use it as touch controls. Or the big difference was you could play as Luigi, Yoshi, and Wario. That's crazy.
That was so cool. I remember it started you off as playing as Yoshi, so you had to like find and free Mario. Like there's a whole kind of subplot going on there where all the Mario brothers were imprisoned.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that they changed that up quite a bit. But yeah, this game was so good. It's also just like, if you want a portable version of Super Mario 64, this is your thing, you know? Before the Switch, obviously, which would now easily run Super Mario 64. But do they have that? Do they have 64 games in the Nintendo Switch store?
No, they don't have any games in the Nintendo Switch store, like old games. They have the subscription service so you can sign up for. The Nintendo Online thing that's like $20 a year has a bunch of regular Nintendo games, just part of the subscription. That's it. There's no virtual console. They're really dropping the ball on that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like the minute they come out with a new console, they need to make sure they have virtual console on it, because those are the games that we all love.
I agree.
Well, Super Mario 64. It's Super Mario 64 on your Nintendo DS. That's what it is, and it's great, and you should play it.
Yeah, I remember the novelty just being like, oh my gosh, a portable 3D video game like it's Super Mario 64. It's like, oh, you have a Nintendo 64 in your pocket. That was nuts at the time. Now it's like, it's whatever. It's Super Mario 64. But at the time, it was totally like bonkers.
Bonkers. Gangbusters. Hotcakes.
That's right.
Probably not the same thing, but that sounds right. Do you want to go to the next one?
Yeah. So the next game on our list is New Super Mario Brothers. So taking a step back from the 3D that the Mario series had gone in, the Super Mario 64 started it off. They didn't really make any 2D Mario games after that. They made Super Mario 64. They made Super Mario Sunshine. And they kind of left behind the old Super Mario Brothers franchise. So in 2006, Nintendo released a side-scrolling 2.5D, because it's technically 3D, like polygons and stuff, but its gameplay is 2D, New Super Mario Brothers. And it's awesome. It's very standard like Super Mario Brothers, but we hadn't seen a 2D Mario Brothers game in over 10 years by the time this game came out. So it was like a little bit of a breath of fresh air and a little bit of a nostalgia tour to go back in time. And now, of course, the new Super Mario Brothers series is huge. There's the Wii version, there's the Wii U version, the deluxe version that just came out on the Switch. But this was the one that kicked it off. Oh, there was also New Super Mario Brothers 2 on the 3DS, which you've been playing kind of recently, right? That one's all about the coins getting rich.
Yeah, you got to get super rich, and then you got to be able to buy the new areas, like the new bonus things on the sides, like the mushroom houses and stuff. Big fan. I think I got to the point where I unlocked the 2 new areas, and then I kind of fell off, and I was like, I should go back to Pokemon. I brought that with me on this trip, so I will be playing a lot of Pokemon at times too. So,
speaking of Pokemon, the DS had so many Pokemon games. Maybe I'm doing mental math here. Maybe the most Pokemon games of any platform.
Oh, wow. Yeah, there were a ton. The first ones... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we had Diamond, Pearl, Platinum. We had Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I'm just doing a mental count. Black and White. And Black and White too, so that's 9 if we're counting all the different versions. That's 9 Pokemon games. Mainline Pokemon games, not even counting the Mystery Dungeon, Pokemon Ranger, all those other spin-off series.
Or the detectives, or the detective ones, you know.
Yeah.
Were there detective ones on Pokemon on DS? They were, right?
Detective Pikachu is a 3DS game from a few years ago.
Oh, maybe there was the Mystery Dungeon,
yeah,
right?
Mystery Dungeon. Yeah, those were DS games.
Okay, that's the one that I didn't really understand, and I was like, it's not a traditional Pokemon game. It's not for me. That's how I feel. Yep. But same. I owned Pearl. And
me too.
Pearl was awesome. It had 3 new features to it. The first was the Poketch, which made the dual screen at the bottom essentially a smartwatch. So it kept the time, told you like what date it was, all that jazz. Okay.
Had apps.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like not little cool apps inside of it you could use. The Underground, which was a multiplayer area that I never really understood. Like it was before I would just Google something, and I remember trying to do it, and I'm like, I don't know what this is, and it's confusing. But you could like make a base, and you could go through these caves and mine stuff. And the way it was multiplayer is you could like bury things in the ground for other players, and they'd grow. Is how it worked. Yeah, and you get these like spheres, but I didn't really know what the spheres did, and it was fun. It was a cool thing to do. It was like, because in my mind, it was like the Underground is like a place where you and a bunch of other players are roaming around together. But in reality, it was just this thing where you could bury treasures for your friends if you really wanted to. And then the usual, of course, like trading and all that jazz. The last thing that was cool about it was the Pokemon contest. But I thought this mode was pure trash because they didn't understand it. Like I didn't understand, and I just made my Pokemon weren't pretty, and it made me mad. So I just didn't really play it.
This is the Pokemon beauty contest thing?
Yeah, you would have like a talent show where you'd like, it was like acting or whatever, and you'd do like all your moves or whatever. And then you had a show where you would put like things on your Pokemon to make them dress all nice, and like different things would give them like a cool or cute attitude. And I didn't really get it at all. There was another part of it too. There's like a third part of it, and I didn't write that down because I'm a great podcast host. And but it was like I don't know. I think this is to sound wrong, but I think Pokemon should just be about Pokemon fighting. You know, like the new games have like the take a picture with your Pokemon thing, and I'm like, this is too much. Okay, I just want to focus. Also, in Ultra Moon, the guy, the Pokedex dude who's alive, the Roton or whatever in the Pokedex, he's always like, you should take a picture with your Pokemon. And I'm like, just leave me alone. I don't want to take pictures with anyone, okay? I just want to become the best like no one ever was, and you're ruining it right now. Also, and that's the most important part about this Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, is they had online modes.
They did, yeah.
And that was big.
That was big. You could battle online. You could trade online. It had voice chat too. You could even kind of talk to each other online.
There's a lot of fun voice stuff with the DS that we're going to talk about later too in another game.
Yeah,
it's also animal related. So
that's right. As of May 20th, however, when Nintendo took down Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, all Pokemon Wi-Fi, all Wi-Fi for DS games and original Wii games are gone. Rest in peace.
Aw, that's a bummer. It makes me sad when they disappear.
Yep. I think there are ways to make it work. Like there are ways to get around that. There are like third-party servers for, at least for more popular games like Pokemon. But yeah. So that's Diamond and Pearl. The next set of Pokemon games, which I think are important to talk about, are the Heart Gold and Soul Silver versions, which were remakes of the original Gold and Silver, which I think a lot of us can agree, maybe the best Pokemon games. Gold and Silver. Just going to throw that one out there. Hot take. Heart Gold, Soul Silver remakes.
Hot takes.
I think they're better than their original counterparts because they basically update the whole thing to be Generation 4 style. So you got your dual screen, you got some sort of 3D stuff going on, but still mostly sprite based. It's just really, really great.
You know what? I love that. I should give that. I've never played Silver or Gold, so maybe because these DS games will work on my 2DS, right? I could go buy them.
Yes,
and
they
play
will.
them still.
Well,
so I should.
You could buy Heart Gold, Soul Silver, but it's gonna be an expensive proposition because I think they have held their value very well.
Oh, let me look this up right now while you talk. Well, actually, I'm going to talk about the next thing. So I'll.
Well, I want to talk about the Pokewalker real quick because Heart Gold and Soul Silver came with the Pokewalker, which was kind of like the Pokemon Pikachu accessory that you could get. That was sort of like just a Tamagotchi for your Pokemon. That was Pokemon Pikachu, but the Pokewalker came with Heart Gold and Soul Silver. And it was a little kind of Tamagotchi thing that you kept with you. It kept track of how you were walking. So it was like a little pedometer. But you could also beam your Pokemon to it because, little known fact, the Heart Gold and Soul Silver cartridges for the DS actually had infrared transmitters built into the top of them. So you could communicate with your Pokewalker using infrared. You could send your Pokemon there, and you could train them up and like catch new Pokemon and stuff, and then send them back from your Pokewalker. And it was super cool.
That is awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it promoted good health. It was like Pokemon Go before Pokemon Go.
That's right. They're like, get outside and walk, you losers. And we're like, okay, if it'll make my Pokemon stronger. By the way, if you want a copy of Pokemon Heart Gold for the Nintendo DS, there is a $50 version of it where I think it's like new. But if you want it for used, you can get it for like $16-17, which isn't too bad. I'm looking at eBay right now.
Oh, that's much cheaper than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, these ones don't have the case with it. Like, because here's a one with the case, and it's $100. So I think that's what it costs. Ooh, here's one with the Pokewalker, and it's $59.99, but it's also in Italian. So good luck with that if you speak Italian.
So there's upsides and downsides, you know?
Maybe I should teach myself Italian by playing Pokemon Heart Gold. It's the new Rosetta Stone. The next games we're going to talk about are the black and white Pokemon games. And these introduced triple battles and rotation battles. And triple battles were where your 3 Pokemon come out to fight another 3 Pokemon, and they are in a line. And they could only attack, depending on what kind of Pokemon they are, the person in front of them or the person to the side. Like, they couldn't cross over. Like, if you had a flying Pokemon, I'm pretty sure you could cross over. But if you had, like, just, I don't know, a Diglett or something, and you don't have Dig, then you got to tackle the person in front of you. There was another kind of battle called rotation battles, and those were where your Pokemon were in a semicircle, and they can kind of move more freely while they fight. And Pokemon Black had more rotation battles than triple battles, and Pokemon White had more triple battles than rotation battles. That's kind of how they split it up this time. And the game also introduced the mechanic of rustling grass, or like a small tornado in a cave, or like a rippling water effect, and that was to show you exactly where a Pokemon is. And sometimes there were like rare Pokemon there, and sometimes there were Pokemon you had like 8 of, and you were like, why are you wasting my time, Nintendo? What are you doing? So, but the other thing that was cool about Pokemon Black and White is there was a seasonal cycle in the game that was based off the actual calendar. Isn't that neat? I think that's pretty cool.
That is neat. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So you would have like winter in Pokemon Black and White. And then also there's Pokemon Black and White 2, and the same features were in there. It just extended the story. I never played these games. I just looked up stuff about them, but I really want to now. I really want to play all the Pokemon games. I don't know why I haven't yet. They're just so gosh darn long, you know?
They really are. They are just long adventures, because they're JRPGs, and that's what JRPGs are. Very long. Always.
That's right. You get what you pay for, and this is quality, time-consuming entertainment.
That's right.
Real into it. I'm going to be playing a lot of Pokemon on my flight back in a week. Super pumped about it. Hope there's no kids near me, because I don't want them to distract me. You know, like, what you playing? I'm like, I'm busy right now. I'm trying to be the very best.
Like, why are you playing old Pokemon?
And they'll be like, it's all about Fortnite. I don't know. I'm just sounding like an old man video game guy now. Old man video games here, making fun of people for playing Fortnite. You want to talk about the next game, which I actually had too, and I loved.
This game was awesome. Mario Kart DS. Not only was it a very solid Mario Kart game, I mean, it had all the things that a great Mario Kart game does. Great tracks, great items, great characters, great everything. But it was the first Mario Kart game that could go online. So you could play this game online against other people and get your butt kicked by people in Japan all the way across the world. It was awesome.
Really, really good. And I loved it.
Yeah, they were really, really good. I feel like there was some hacking going on like later on, but yeah, it was definitely super, super fun. I remember taking this game with me to PAX in what must have been 2007, 2008, in Seattle, and because there's so many people there, video game people there with DSs, you could just fire the thing up and then get into like a local game of Mario Kart, and there was like always people playing Mario Kart there, and it was so fun to just play against random people.
That's so cool. That's such a great story, Tyler.
Thanks.
I love it. That's awesome. What's this note you have in here about Diddy Kong Racing?
Oh, they also made Diddy Kong Racing DS. It was just a straight port of Diddy Kong Racing from the N64, so I didn't want to make it like a bigger thing than it really is. But it's just Diddy Kong Racing. They added like a track editor and a couple of like other features, but ultimately it was still just Diddy Kong Racing. So if you like Diddy Kong Racing for the N64, you can play it on your DS, I guess, if you want. That's neat.
Good for you if you're a Diddy Kong Racing fan. But Mario Kart was the best.
Yeah, Mario Kart's where it's at.
Super into it.
Yep.
All right, the next game, I remember seeing a bazillion people playing, and I never tried it. And that game is Brain Age.
So Brain Age was like a little, like sort of game full of brain teasers. The idea was you play this a little bit every day, and it'll make sure that your brain never goes bad. So when you're old and gray, you're still playing Brain Age every day, you're still super smart. What I thought was neat about this game was you held it sideways in your hand like a book, like you opened it sort of like a book, and then you would stylus things on the right-hand side, and you would look at things on the left-hand side. And it would just have like little brain teasers where you'd have to like, they would show you things like the orders of numbers, and you have to like recreate the order of the numbers, and like it had voice activated things. I remember where it would do things like it would show you the word blue written out, but blue would be written in green, and then it would say the color of the word, not the actual word, or vice versa. So you would have to be thinking about, I'm reading this word, or I'm looking at the color and not reading the word, and it was much harder than you would think. So just little things like that like sort of keep your brain just occupied. It was very fun, and it kind of kept a list of like if you were doing it every day, it kind of gave you little things like, oh, you've been doing it for a week straight. It was kind of neat. I liked it.
That is cool. You know, it sounds like a cell phone game before they had cell phone games.
Yeah, that's really kind of what prevalent.
It was. Yeah, I like it, but there's no annoying microtransactions probably. That's great.
That's right.
All right, now we got to talk about the Zeldas. Ooh,
yeah.
I'm gonna let you carry this one because
we got a couple of Zeldas on the DS here. We got the Phantom Hourglass, which is one I didn't really play. I didn't really play either of these, but the Phantom Hourglass was a direct sequel to Wind Waker. It picked up like immediately where Wind Waker left off. So we're talking Toon Link. The controls were kind of tough because they made heavy use of the touchscreen, where you kind of had to like use it like a joystick, sort of like in Super Mario 64 DS, and it was like kind of hard to do. But there was some cool stuff like having to draw shapes to solve puzzles, and you could chart out your ship path by drawing it on the bottom screen, and it was overall like kind of neat. It also had its own like Triforce DS. You could get the special edition DS I really wanted, but I never got. But it was received like sort of okay. It was like, yep, this is certainly a Zelda game. If you like Zelda games, you'll have fun here. A lot of reviewers got hung up on the central dungeon, where you would play it for a little bit, you'd get a little ways in, and then you'd have to go do something else and like get an item, and then you'd have to come back and you have to play everything you played again, but this time you get a little bit further. So every time you came back to the central dungeon, you got a little bit further, but it was kind of tedious because you'd have to redo everything you already did each time you came back. So people didn't really like that a whole lot.
That sounds frustrating.
Yeah, but then a few years later, we got Spirit Tracks, which takes place in the same timeline as Wind Waker and Phantom Hourglass. So we're still talking Toon Link, only we're talking 100 years later, and Link is a train conductor. So you're drawing your paths of your train. So you're exploring the overworld in your train, and then you get off your train, you go into the dungeons, and you do standard Zelda stuff. So pretty similar to Phantom Hourglass. It also had a central dungeon like Phantom Hourglass, but they listened to the feedback. And so every time you sort of complete a section of that central dungeon, the next time you come back, you could kind of skip what you had already done so you could get to the stuff that you were working on this time. So they kind of listened to the feedback there. These actually are games that I've been meaning to come back to because I didn't play them back in the day. And I have found that every time I go back to a Zelda game I didn't play back in the day and play it 10 years, 13 years later, it's always awesome and always have a great time. Like I didn't play Majora's Mask until 13 years after it came out, and I loved it. So I'm going to go back and play Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks.
Well, I got to say, you had me at Link as a train conductor. Just know that.
Yeah.
So that's amazing.
Yep. Driving them choo-choo trains.
Mm-hmm. Into it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know Professor Layton in the Curious Village? What a weird name for a game.
Yeah, I know. See, these ones are weird. I didn't play them very much, so I can't speak to them a whole lot, but they were kind of puzzly McPuzzle games. You're just doing puzzles, and they had like a fun storyline. They did have cool anime, like animated cutscenes. So when you solve puzzles, you get to kind of watch some more of the like story unfold. I didn't play them a whole lot, but I know they were pretty popular, so I feel like we shouldn't not talk about them before we get emails about how we missed Professor Layton in the Curious Village. So,
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't like a weird game like that, too? I think it's cool they have puzzle games. There were a couple of those for, was it PlayStation 2? Where they were puzzle games that had story to them. That's kind of cool.
Yeah,
I like
probably.
it.
Yeah, there was a whole series of these games, too. There was Curious Village. There was, like, the Mysterious Box or something. There's a whole bunch of them. Like, they were very popular.
Is Professor Layton like a detective? Is he like Sherlock Holmes a little bit?
I think so. I think that probably sounds accurate.
That's pretty cool. I'm into that. Tell me about Yoshi's Island DS.
Yeah, well, if you like Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo, you're going to like Yoshi's Island DS. Same art style, same general idea of controlling Yoshi while he holds a baby. Only in this game, you get more babies than just Mario. You get baby Mario, you get baby Donkey Kong, you get baby Peach, and I think you get baby Bowser, and they all have their own kind of twists. So, like, baby Donkey Kong can, like, swing on special baby Donkey Kong swingy things, and baby Bowser can shoot fireballs, but you can't shoot eggs. So they all have their own kind of reason why you would play that, and it kind of gives some replayability to each level because each level like has stuff that only like a certain baby can get to. So it was kind of just an expansion on Yoshi's Island on the Super Nintendo. But yeah, it was fun. It wasn't received as well. I think the level design was kind of generally considered to be not quite as good. But yeah, it was cool, and it used the two screens pretty well because the gameplay became pretty vertical at that point, so you could see like above you a lot easier and like jump upwards. It was cool.
Neat.
Yeah.
Well,
so if you like Yoshi's Island, play the DS one. You'll have a good time.
I have the joy of talking about a game that I made fun of so much and never played. So let's get into Nintendogs, everybody.
Yeah.
So Nintendogs, it was essentially a dog Tamagotchi on your Nintendo DS, where you took care of dogs, and you could start with one dog, and then as you gain money and trainer points, you would use money to purchase items for your house, while you'd use trainer points to unlock new dogs. But the weird thing about trainer points is they would go up and down depending on your actions. So you got to do good stuff to get those points to go up, but they would go down if you do bad stuff. Like if you leave your dog unfed, or
you're going to lose some trainer points.
You don't want to do that. That's real bad. So you could have 3 dogs in your house at one time. And then don't worry, though. You're like, hey, I bought Nintendogs. I want to be covered in dogs. You can keep 5 more dogs in your dog hotel. No big deal there. Yeah. But one of the coolest things about this game, I think, is you could give voice commands to your dog using your actual voice.
Ooh.
Like, I think the game would, like, remember your voice, like, record it. And it would like be trained. So if you said like lay down, your dog would lay down. It would listen to you, which is what we all want, I think, as far as dogs.
It's generally what we want is for our dogs to listen to us.
Exactly. And so there were 3 different contests you can enter your dogs in. Their disc competition, the agility trial, and the obedience trial. And each one had 5 different levels to it, going from beginner level to championship level. And I think it was just kind of like you get more prize money, so you can keep getting more stuff. You're just growing, you're being a better dog person. Hey, you know what? Is it really expensive to get a real life dog? It sure is. Do you have $30 to get Nintendogs? You sure do. Let's just do this. Let's do this instead,
Do this instead, yeah.
Yeah.
And then I'm losing trainer points right now the way my dog is looking at me like, how dare you not pay attention to me while you're podcasting? So my trainer points are going down right now.
You know what? I think your trainer points should go up because you're teaching your dog that it needs to be a podcast producer and just be more supportive of our dreams. Okay?
That's right.
You hear that, Luna? You hear that?
That's right.
She didn't hear that probably, but she knows.
She did not.
She gets my emails all the time. I'm like, Luna, where's the research I asked from you? And she's just like, she doesn't even say anything. I'm like, what are you doing? You're killing me right now. But that is Nintendogs for all you people out there.
There was also that Nintendogs plus cats, right? Like it was kind of an expansion pack that came out for it.
Yeah.
It was the same thing, but with cats.
Where you could have kitty cats too.
And they don't listen to you at all, probably.
Yeah, I think the Nintendogs for cats, it came with the 3DS. That was in 2011. But why wouldn't
okay.
you
So that was a 3DS game. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't you get to have cats with it too?
Wow.
Who doesn't love that? I mean, I hope like the more you leave your cat alone, the higher your cat trainer points go up. That's how I think it should be. It's like, did you just let your cat sleep on this cat condo all day? Then your trainer points have gone up. Congratulations. So the next 2 games we have are Final Fantasies 3 and 4 for Nintendo DS, which I didn't know they came out for DS.
They did. They released a couple of Final Fantasies. These are actually really neat because they weren't just re-releases of older Final Fantasy games the way that we had kind of seen up to this point. Like the Game Boy Advance versions were just the Super Nintendo versions of whatever games they came out with, or the Wonder Swan version in the case of the first 2 games. But the Final Fantasies 3 and 4 on the DS were full 3D remakes, and number 4 even had voice-acted cutscenes. 3 might have 2, but I can't remember, but I know 4 had voice-acted cutscenes. So they were like 3D, like almost modernized versions, except they still used all of the old gameplay mechanics. So in Final Fantasy III, which was very notable because this was the first time Final Fantasy III had been released in any form in North America. So this was the first and only way for people to play that game for a long time in North America without like importing it from Japan and like getting a weird translation of it. Final Fantasy III itself is kind of a meh sort of game. It gets really, really hard, and it has a really, really hard dungeon in it called the Crystal Tower. That was super, super difficult. But if you want to play Final Fantasy III, this is one of the better ways to do it. Final Fantasy IV, it was remade in the same style as 3, kind of a chibi, like anime sort of style. But 4 is just a better game, in my opinion, has a better story, has better gameplay mechanics. But these are some of the best ways to play those games. I wouldn't say that it's the best way to play those now because both of those have been released on PC and on couple other things too. I think they're both on mobile as well. So that's probably the true best way to play those games. But for a while, this was the best way to play it. And it was in fact the way that I played Final Fantasy IV was the DS version.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan, the DS wasn't a great system for that, but it did get great ports of 3 and 4, great remake ports. So that was cool.
That is awesome. Now we're going to move on to a game we mentioned last episode as a personal favorite of yours, and that is Guitar Hero, a.k.a. Hand Cramp Hero.
Yep. Hand Cramp Hero had its own accessory that plugged into the Game Boy Advance slot, so if you're a DSi owner, sorry, you could not play this game. You are better off for it, I promise. And it had 4 buttons instead of the standard Guitar Hero 5 buttons. But even so, those buttons were so close together that they really just hurt your hand. The game itself was actually pretty neat. On the left screen, you would see the things coming down the thing, like standard Guitar Hero. You would see I forget what they're called, but they come flying down the runway. And then on the right, you had a special stylus that looked like a guitar pick, and you strum your guitar on the right screen, the touch screen. So you held this like a book, also similar to Brain Age. So it was held
like
sideways. So you played the guitar that way, and you pressed the buttons on the thing that plugged into the Game Boy Advance slot. It was cool. Like in a vacuum, like in designing this game, they were probably like, "Oh yeah, this is going to be great." It was a little bit simplistic because it only had 4 buttons, but it was overall pretty cool. Except that those buttons were so small and so cramped together, and that was really the only way for them to do it. That it just hurt your hand to play for more than like 15 or 20 minutes at a time, and it makes the whole thing not worth it at all because it just hurt to play. It was just physically tiring and awful.
So, full disclosure, you want to be a jukebox hero. You don't want to be a hand cramp hero.
That's right.
That's our advice to you, listener, just so you're aware. Just know that. Now, there's 2 games here that I've heard of and seen a bunch, but I have no idea what they are. And those are the Mario and Luigi series games, Partners in Time and Bowser's Inside Story. Are those like platforming games?
No, those are like JRPG style games. So we talked about in Game Boy Advance, we talked about Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. Which itself was kind of a spiritual successor to the Super Nintendo Super Mario RPG game.
Oh, yeah, the Search for the 7 Stars one, right? That was for SNES.
Yeah, so that one was neat. And then Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga kind of tried to do some similar stuff, sort of be the same style game. They changed the art style up a bunch, but like ultimately it was a very similar kind of game. The Mario and Luigi series on DS, Partners in Time and Bowser's Inside Story kind of just keep iterating on that formula. Partners in Time has like a time travel-y story going on. Full disclosure, I didn't play either of these, so I don't know a whole lot about them, but Partners in Time had kind of a time traveling thing going on. And then I know that Bowser's Inside Story takes place inside Bowser, and it's really gross. You're going inside of Bowser to learn both. It's a kind of a double entendre a little bit there. So you're both literally learning about Bowser's insides because it takes place literally inside his like guts. But then you also get some Bowser backstory there, I think. So it's like the inside story on Bowser that sort of makes this kind of
So
fun
it's kind of like the Magic School Bus episode where they shrink and get into Arnold's body, but this time they're inside Bowser's body and you're Mario and Luigi.
It's exactly like that. And Ms. Frizzle makes a cameo appearance, I think. No, just kidding. She doesn't. But
that would be the best crossover ever.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So those are cool games. I think you should give them a shot if you like JRPGs, especially if you like Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, which just got a remake for the 3DS. If you want to continue that storyline, play Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story.
Nice. Do you want to talk about Scribblenauts and Henry Hatsworth? Which is an amazing name for a game.
So Scribblenauts.
I just like games that have a weird dude's first name in them, or like
Henry Hatsworth and the Puzzle. Well, let's start with Henry Hatsworth and the Puzzling Adventure then. So this game is 2 games in one because you play as Henry Hatsworth, and it's on the top screen you're playing kind of a standard platforming game. You got a sword and you're like fighting stuff, and when you fight bad guys and destroy them, they get sent to the bottom screen. Now on the bottom screen you're playing basically Tetris Attack or Pokemon Puzzle League, and you're matching 3, 4, 5, and you're trying to once you beat the bad guys in the top screen, you got to clear them out of the bottom screen or they'll come back. So you're constantly jumping between platforming on the top screen and puzzling on the bottom screen. And I don't think it was very popular, but I remember getting it shortly after it came out and just being really enamored with it. Like, it was just so fun and like such an interesting gameplay mechanic of this like jumping between 2 screens. It was just really fun,
really cool
and I think
idea.
it's worth checking out. And he's kind of like an old man, Indiana Jones style guy with a monocle, and he's like going through and searching for, I don't know, stuff, doing Indiana Jones style stuff. And you could get power ups, and he had like a robot suit that like made him invincible and could destroy everything. It was super fun.
That's cool. Well, what about Scribblenauts? That's a puzzle game, right?
That game has come out on a lot of different platforms since it came out on DS, and it's also a puzzle solving game where you play as a little dude with a chicken hat, or looks kind of like a chicken hat. I don't really know what it is. He probably has a real name, but and your goal is to like solve a puzzle in some way to get like a star or something like that. But the way that you do it is you get a little pad where you can type things in. Like anything you want, you type it in and it will pop up, and then it will behave in a way that sort of makes sense for that thing. So if you need a ladder, you type in ladder and a ladder pops up. And the thing that's so cool about this, that could have really been its downfall, is if it didn't have very much stuff in it and there were only a few things you could type in to really solve all these puzzles, it would be like kind of a neat like novelty puzzle solving thing. But they have like, I want to say there is literally everything in this game. Like, you can type something in and it will be there. It's just amazing the things that you can type in. So you can solve these puzzles in such creative ways, where you'd be like, I need to get to the top of this thing. What can I use to get there? Could I use a rope? Yeah, you could summon a rope. Could I summon a staircase, like walk up a staircase? Could I summon a Pegasus and ride on a Pegasus? Yeah, probably. Or you could just summon a jetpack and fly to the top. Like, there's so many different ways to solve all of the puzzles. That must have been so hard for them to design, because there's just so much stuff that you could use, and I just loved it. It's so fun.
That's a really cool, 2 really cool concept games.
Yeah, and Scribblenauts is on everything now. If you want to play it on your phone, it's there. I think it's on PC. You can find it just about everywhere. So
that is awesome. Well, I'm going to talk about Star Fox Command.
Ooh.
And Star Fox Command, guess who you're playing as? It's Fox McCloud again. You're there. And you're fighting aliens from, they're known as the Anglar. That's their name. But the cool thing about Star Fox Command is there's 2 modes to it. And the first mode is a turn-based mode called Strategic Map, where you're essentially defending the Great Fox. Oh my gosh, I just dropped my mic. Fox's biggest, big ship, okay? Mm-hmm. And then you're defending that from incoming enemies, and you can fire missiles from the Great Fox, but you can also have your own ships kind of block them. It's like a tower defense kind of thing, I would say, but on an open map, because you're defending the Great Fox. Yeah. And then the second one was called Battle Mode, and this is when you finished the top-down strategic map part, you would go into Battle Mode, and this is essentially all range mode from Star Fox 64, which we all love.
Of course.
Yeah. And there are 3 usual mission objectives in this mode, and the first is you got to destroy the base ship on the other team, you got to destroy all the enemies, or you got to collect these cores on the map. And then the only time that changes is sometimes the game goes into a chase mode where you're then on the rails. So it's like a traditional Star Fox level where you're just like the thing's coming at you, you can only fly in one direction, you got to shoot everything, which is cool. I think it's a cool little twist on it.
Yeah.
Never played it, but I would give it a go. So it's neat. And it's more Star Fox. Who doesn't love Star Fox?
It was the first Star Fox game since probably Star Fox Assault, maybe? Maybe it was even before that. I don't know. It had been a long time since we got a good Star Fox game, I think.
Yeah, it's true. Good on you, Star Fox, for being so cool. You know, always the cool guy, Star Fox. That's what I think.
Yeah. Speaking of games that haven't had a good installment in a long time, Sonic Rush was a DS game made by the same people that made Sonic Advance 1, 2, and 3 for the Game Boy Advance, which are widely considered to be, pretty good games. Sonic Rush, also pretty good. The levels had more verticality to them because they did the same thing where they split the game across the two screens. So because the screens are vertical with each other, there was more like going up and down in Sonic Rush. There were some cool like 3D boss battles that kind of felt like a little bit more like Sonic Adventure. This game was pretty well received. I didn't play a whole lot of it, but it was mostly another 2D kind of Sonic game. I think you could safely call it Sonic Advance 4, and I think people probably wouldn't get too upset with you for that.
Nothing wrong with that, Good for them.
Yep.
All right. Now, the next game is a whole series of games that are very popular that I've never played, and that's Animal Crossing Wild World. What is that, Tyler?
Animal Crossing Wild World was a DS release in the Animal Crossing series. It was the last one I put any real time into. It was more or less the same game as the GameCube version, but it was portable. So it was awesome. It was super fun. In Animal Crossing, we talked about Animal Crossing when we did the GameCube episode, so we don't need to go too deep. But Animal Crossing, you play as sort of an animal who's joining a town. There's a whole bunch of other animals in the town, and you just make friends with them, and you get the cool items, and you go in debt to Tom Nook forever, and you constantly paying him off because he's a mafia boss, probably.
Oh, yeah? Ooh, there's an animal mafia boss?
Yeah, Tom Nook. I mean, the way this guy is handing out loans and kind of telling you he's protecting you, and it's kind of, he's a little bit of a little bit of mafia vibe going on here. I think there's an insidiousness behind Tom Nook.
There's some serious real world stuff going on in these Animal Crossing games. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, the next game
if you like Animal Crossing, Wild World is a portable version of that.
Yeah, a lot of these games I feel like portable versions of great games, and that's what this next one is too. It is the remake of Chrono Trigger for Nintendo DS, and it was a re-release, and it pretty much was a port of the PlayStation version of the game, where it had all the bonus material from the PlayStation port, and they added a couple new things to it. The first thing they did is they revised the translation, so it made a little bit more sense, which is always nice from one of these games, from a long JRPG like this. And then there was a dual screen mode, which clears the top screen of all menus, and then a self-completing map screen and a default run option. So they added those to the games, which is kind of nice because you don't want to walk the whole time. Okay,
yeah,
that's kind of annoying. So the option to choose the game. So there are two ways you can play this game on your DS. The first is an exact mirror of the original SNES controls for those people out there that like to kick it old school, and the other was to use the DS's touchscreen, which then brought in this like dual screen mode stuff I just mentioned before. But the cool thing about Chrono Trigger's remake is it actually had two new areas in the Nintendo DS version, the Lost Sanctum and the Dimensional Vortex. So it added two new levels. And I also read something that said those new levels had kind of mixed reviews from critics, but still cool they added those in there. So if you're a Chrono Trigger fan, you're probably pumped, okay? And they also did one final change, which is they made it so the ending foreshadowed the events of Chrono Cross. So they changed it to a new ending, which is kind of big, But they gotta plug their existing games, stay in canon, if you will.
That's right. Yep.
So that's that.
Next game on the list, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. Now, this is a series of games. They made several of them, and it continues on to this day. Even I think when the 3DS came out, they switched over to calling it Apollo Justice. You're a different character, but they're all very similar. They're kind of visual novels. Actually, they're less games and more. I think visual novel is a better way to describe it. But basically, you play as Phoenix Wright, who is an attorney, and in the first game there are 5 stories. They all start with some sort of gruesome murder, and you don't really know exactly who did it, what happened, and as the lawyer for the main suspect, it's your job to sort of figure out what went on here. So you cross-examine people, you ask people questions, and you try to find the trip ups in their consistency and like if their story's making sense and stuff like that. And it's famous because he's got a catchphrase where he yells objection when you feel like you've caught somebody in a lie, you can yell objection, and I'm pretty sure you actually yell it at the DS. Maybe that's just what I did when I was playing this game.
Because you were that into it?
because I was that into it. Yeah, I can't. There may have been some voice activated stuff there. Maybe not. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I just yelled that because it was so fun to yell it. But really, it's really satisfying when you like see somebody being inconsistent and you catch them in their lie and you basically finish the story and like win the story based on how you did there. So yeah, there's 5 stories in the first game, and they're really fun if you like that kind of thing. Sort of participating in the telling of like a crime story. It's fun, so highly recommend.
10
and they
out
got
of
their
10.
start.
Tyler recommends again.
Yeah, they were actually got their start on the Game Boy Advance. I think that first game was only in Japan on Game Boy Advance, and then it was re-released for the DS in the United States.
I like it. I like these weird portable games that are only on DS or like PSP and stuff like that.
Yeah,
because they take more risks.
That's right. Speaking of, this game is on other stuff now, but when it first came out, it was kind of an experimental DS game. The World Ends With You. Now, this is a game made by Square Enix. It takes place in a fictionalized version of Shibuya in Japan, in Tokyo. And you play as Neku, a person who has woken up in the middle of what is known as like the Reaper's game. And he has no memories, but he has a partner. And you have to basically make it through the game by doing all kinds of challenges and stuff like that. And it's as you progress through the game, you uncover more and more about the what the game is and like who is in it and all that kind of stuff. But it has some really novel gameplay things where you play as 2 characters at a time, one on the top screen, one on the bottom screen. On the bottom screen, you're playing as Neku and you're doing touchscreen stuff to like attack stuff. And on the top screen, you play as whoever Neku's partner is at the time. So it could be, there's one guy named Joshua. There's a couple other people that you play as. Anyway, that part is done with the D-pad. So you're like doing combos with the D-pad while also swiping stuff on the bottom, and you're like having to look between both screens. This is the only version of this game with that dual screen feature. All of the other re-releases on like iOS or I think the Switch version, they really only have the one viewport. So this is kind of in some senses the like true version of the game. So it's definitely worth going back and playing it on the DS just to get the feeling of having to play those 2 fights at the same time. It's very fun. The story is very intriguing. It's very anime, like nobody has any memories, so they all have to recover their memories, and you learn more about what's going on as you recover your memories and stuff like that. It was notable because the character designer is the same character designer that worked on a lot of Final Fantasy games and also Kingdom Hearts. This game has a very Kingdom Hearts feel to the art style. That is really fun. And actually in Kingdom Hearts 3D for the 3DS, Neku and a couple other characters from The World Ends With You are characters like in the 3DS version of Kingdom Hearts 3D. So yeah, it's cool.
That's cool.
Recommend.
10 out of 10. Tyler recommends. Okay.
That's right.
The last game we have for you today is GTA, as in Grand Theft Auto, Chinatown Wars. Now, this game, I never played it, but it has the highest rating of any Nintendo DS game with an average review score of 92.85. Did you know that, Tyler?
Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, it's apparently the reason why is because the DS version was really cool because it had cel-shaded graphics, which kind of gave it a more comic booky feel, which some of the other versions didn't have. But you could also use that touchscreen to control like your PDA, your GPS, your radio. You could see people on the map. You could like switch between Molotov cocktails and grenades and use those, because it even says here you can whistle into the microphone and it would be like a taxi whistle. That's how you get into a taxi. But the cool thing about this game is it kind of went back to the old top-down Grand Theft Auto of Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2, which is pretty neat. And so it has those kind of graphics. But the story is you're in Liberty City, and you're the spoiled son of a recently murdered triad boss. Sorry. I should have read this the whole way. But no, you're him. Yeah, you're Huang Li, the spoiled son of a recently murdered triad boss. That's you. So, and you come to Liberty City, and I'm just going to say shenanigans ensue, because that's how it always happens with Grand Theft Auto games. And it's really hard to keep up with the story when there's so many subplots going on. But this game is very, very highly rated. And I know that if you want to play it now, you can play it on the Android or iOS versions if you want to, but those do not have those cool cel-shaded graphics that the DS had. So because apparently the
that.
DS had cell shaded graphics, and it had some. Yeah, it just kind of looked. I guess it kind of looked more comic booky on the DS, and people really liked that feel. But yeah, it's the highest rated Nintendo DS game is Grand Theft Auto Chinatown Wars, which is really cool. So yeah, there's also an iPad version that apparently makes it in really good. I think it's in. What does it say down here? Yep, it's in 1024 by 678 high def graphics. If you want to play on it. Yeah, and that's also high. Like the game got a 9 on iPad when they re-reviewed it, so it's like. That's from IGN. So it's just a good game, no matter what you play it on. But apparently the DS version is considered the best.
All right.
Yeah, there you go.
Should we talk about some DS accessories?
Yeah, I think we actually talked about some of these last episode, but we can mention them again. I think it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, well, there's a couple that are worth, like, there was a lot of, like, one-off, I don't know, there's a couple that are worth mentioning. The Rumble Pack had some support by a lot of games that you would just plug into the Game Boy Advance cartridge slot and kind of give you some rumbling. The Opera web browser, which we talked about last week, also was the only thing to use the GBA port for a memory expansion. So there was an 8 megabyte memory expansion you could get. And the only thing it was good for was for running the Opera web browser, which wasn't a very good web browser, but, you know, in those days, it was all we had. You know, it was all we had.
You gotta just start somewhere, okay?
That memory expansion was also useful for homebrew, so there were a lot of unofficial games that were made that could use that. And then the last thing that I want to talk about under accessories here, besides the Hand Cramp Hero accessory, which we talked about, is probably the most notable accessory, is the headset. So for the few games on the DS that had voice chat, you could actually get a headset that plugged into the microphone port on the DS, and then you could talk to people in private. But it wasn't really necessary because the DS had a built-in microphone. But, you know, if you wanted a headset, you could have it. So there you go. Accessories.
I like that. I think it's cool. I think the headset thing should be still a thing for, like, it should come with a DS, I think. That would be really cool. Because people like to play with their friends on their DS. This should be fun. You could talk it out. You could talk out a Pokemon trade with a human being. Doesn't that sound nice? Oh,
it does sound nice.
Hey, Tyler.
So, what?
What you been playing?
This week? I've been playing more of the same. I've kept going on my Final Fantasy 14, so I got in there and I'm leveling up, trying to get my Red Mage to level 60 so I can continue my storyline quests. I've been playing World of Final Fantasy on my Switch, mostly just a lot of Final Fantasy. Played a little bit of Destiny, of course, always playing Destiny. But other than that, those are really it. I've just been playing World of Final Fantasy. I've been putting in like a half hour to an hour each night before I go to sleep. And it's a nice, cool way to wind down because it's so lighthearted and fun. It's a little adventure. But I haven't played too many games this week. What have you been playing?
Well, I'm traveling right now. I'm on the road. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now for comedy shows. But whenever I travel, I pick up Pokemon Go again. I download it. So I've been walking. There's a park right next to the house I'm staying in that I can go walk to. And I can just play some Pokemon, and I actually played yesterday and I did a very easy raid battle, like a 1-star raid battle, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there and a SUV pulls up and then 2 more people join and I'm like, oh snap, there's still people playing this game. Got really excited.
That's what is interesting to me to hear about. Like there is still a decent amount of people that play that game. Like it's still pretty big. It's not like it exploded and then died immediately. It's like it's still pretty big. It's still big, and it got even stranger because after I was done with the raid, I was like, oh, cool, I beat it, and I caught the little snow runt or whatever it was. I think it was that, yeah. And then I was walking away, and then the car followed and pulled up to me and was like, hey, man, are you going to do the raid over there? And I'm like, I think so. And he's like, let us know if there's people there. Here, add me as a friend. And he like QR coded, added me as a friend. And then just like, and I'm like, oh, man, these people are all like overly nice. It's really cool. It's because usually in the context of an SUV followed me, it's never good. But in this case, it was fun. Like I was a little scared at first, and they were just these 2 guys that were just like, because they're like, have you been playing for a while? And I'm like, well, I'm just getting back into it. They're like, we are too. And I'm like, oh, cool. So there's passion behind Pokemon Go is what I'm trying to tell everyone. That's great. If you want to play the game, you should definitely check it out. And then I've been also playing Destiny, and I haven't really gotten to play my Nintendo DS because I usually play it on planes. And my flight was so early in the morning, I just slept like a little baby on this plane on the way over here, which was nice. But yeah, so I'm going to play some Destiny later this week. I might go take a Pokemon walk right after this because it's sunny outside here. So I'm going to go do that. All right. Mm-hmm. But that was, as always, too,
That was 22 games we listed. If there's any games that we missed that you want us to talk about, please email us.
I'm sure we did.
There's a lot of DS games. Yeah.
There's a lot of DS games. I'm sure we missed some good ones. So I'd be happy to continue the discussion next week.
Yeah, so if you could email us at codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com and let us know and be like, hey, Mike, Tyler, you ding-dongs, you missed my favorite game. And then we'll do it for you. But
yeah.
Ding-dong is the extent of the argument we will insult that we will accept, though. Anything worse than ding-dong, we won't do it. So watch out. Okay, I'm just saying that right now. As always, too, you can follow us on Twitter. I'm at @mecoletta, and Tyler is at SneakerElf, ELPH. You can follow him there. And then we would love it if you rated and reviewed us on Apple Podcasts or iTunes or Stitcher or whatever you use to listen to your podcast. And also just tell your friends about it, because that's the best way, you know?
Yeah.
It helps us out. So with that, I think that's everything for the day. Right, Tyler? I think we did it.
I think that's it. I think we did it.
So next week, we'll probably have some of these games we missed. I'm assuming so. We usually do. And then we're going to talk about the PSP, the PlayStation Portable.
Yes.
Which is a system I never used, but I've heard is so cool that I'm really thinking I should get one that's used. I don't know why. I just feel like I want one.
That's a system that has a lot, or like a really cool homebrew scene. At least it did a few years ago. I don't know if it still has quite as big a homebrew scene, but man, there was a lot going on there back in the day. That was cool.
We will probably talk about that homebrew scene and everything along with the PSP next week. So until next time, Tyler, can you sign out like you're a news anchor?
And that's the way the cookie crumbles. See you next week on Codex, a history of video games.